gentlemen, my name is Kieran, of course, from Red Devil Weekly, and I'm going to give you my thoughts ahead of United's game against Burnley tomorrow. 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, which is a bit of a new one. Very rare you get those sorts of times, so obviously good luck to everyone that's travelling down there, although I guess Burnley and Manchester aren't that far apart. Before we get into it, I'll give you my thoughts on Burnley's team, how they set up, and how they're coming into this game, and how we're going to set up, and trust me, there's a lot to talk about on that front. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Really enjoy hearing what you guys think, so please leave your thoughts in the comments, and feel free to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, if you do enjoy the video. So we'll just get cracking. We'll get straight into it. If you want to leave your thoughts on anything I say, I am live right now, so leave your thoughts in the live chat and we'll have a discussion. But let's talk about Burnley. Let's talk about Burnley, shall we? Because they haven't had the best of starts to life in the Premier League. Last season in the Championship, they obviously absolutely tore it up. Champions of the Championship, and what a team they were as well, under the stewardship of former Man City captain Vincent Kompany, of course, which adds a bit of edge to this game. But this season they have struggled somewhat to pick up points in the Premier League so far. I think only 1 point so far this season from their opening 5 games. That point coming actually a couple of days ago against Forest, a 1-1 draw, fairly hard fought 1-1 draw away at Forest. They did also pick up a red card for Forest. He will not be in the line. Well, he's serving a 3-match suspension. Foster, sorry, not Forest. I got it mixed up there. So yeah, so Foster, their striker, the South African international, won't be available for this game, so they're going to have to come up with another solution. But what I've noticed, having looked at Burnley's form, is that ultimately, well, they haven't picked up a single point at home this season, and ultimately, when they play any sort of decent side, they generally get beaten pretty comfortably. 5-2 defeat against Spurs, who are obviously playing superb football this season. Man City on the first day of the season, 3-0 defeat. There was a red card in that game as well for Burnley. And also Aston Villa went to Turf Moor and got a 3-1 win. So far, it hasn't been a happy hunting ground. It's not exactly been the fortress that they would have wanted it to be. However, they obviously picked up that point against Forest on Monday night, and they will have some confidence from that. They have to take some confidence and some pride from that. Going away to the City ground is not an easy place to go. Many Big Six sides fail to get a result there. So, to get a point there is a very decent result, and hopefully for them, one they can use to kind of as a springboard and kick on and pick up better results. Hopefully, from a Manchester United point of view, it doesn't start with tomorrow's game, but they will be looking to create a big atmosphere. They know that that is one of their best chances, is making Turf Moor a ground that teams don't want to go to, and especially with our form right now, every team is going to be making it as hard as possible for us. They're going to know that we've got a bit of a weak mentality right now, and that atmosphere is going to be the key. If it's subdued, if we can subdue it, then we'll have a better chance. But if it gets on top of us and Burnley maybe score an early goal, we're going to be in trouble. We're going to be in trouble because we know these guys fold like a deck of cards right now. In terms of Burnley, in terms of some of their best players, Koleosho, I thought has looked really, really good for them. I actually think Amdouni as well. He looked really good for them on Monday night. But they've got a few threats, and obviously the difference with this Burnley team is it's not a Sean Dyche team. Vincent Kompany in the Championship had them playing some sublime football, unrecognisable from what we've seen from Burnley in the past. So it's going to be a very interesting test to see whether they stick with that style of play or whether they go back to a bit more pragmatic defensive style of play. However, if I'm at Burnley, I am not backing down whatsoever. And obviously Vincent Kompany in his press conference, said that they've got a particular style of playing and they're not going to back down from it. They're not going to go away from their principles. And why not? Especially with the way we're playing at the moment. I actually think it would be better to really stick it on us, put the pressure on us. And I'm sure that's what Burnley are going to be looking to do. But it's going to be a really tough fixture under the lights at Turf Moor. I honestly think anything could happen. I really think, and I heard journalists in the press conference asking Company whether he thought it was a good time to play us, and obviously he played it down a little bit, but it is a very good time. It's a very good time to be playing us. In fact, I would say the best time to be playing us, especially with some of the nonsense that's been coming out today and in previous days since that Bayern defeat, and also the Brighton defeat as well. And we'll get into that. Thanks for joining, guys, who've been in the live chat box. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Hope you're doing well. And Terence YIP, Terence Yip, says, honestly, we have to grab the win since the form of the team hasn't been up to par, honestly, especially with some dressing room issues. Well, we're going to get onto that now. It's a brilliant segue, Terence. Thank you very much for giving me that, actually, throwing me that rope, because it's the perfect segue. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And Box's prediction is suitably negative, suitably pessimistic, and sorry, I read that wrong. Sorry, I thought he said final Burnley. Final Man United, suitably positive. Very, very positive. And I hope you're right. I hope you're right, yeah. I don't know why I said that was negative. I need to read the comments, actually read them. Get some bins. Get some glasses. Okay, but let's talk about Man United. Let's talk about what Terence was saying about the issues. Obviously, we lost to Bayern Munich. I didn't really give my thoughts on that, but it was terrible. There's my thoughts. And looking ahead to this game today, obviously I'm talking to you on the Friday, the 22nd of September. There's rumours of dressing room unrest. There's rumours of players feeling like Ten Hag has got favourites. There's, dressing room leaks, this, that and the other. And it's the sort of thing you don't want to have clouding a game of football. It's the last thing you need going into a game which is not an easy fixture. Excuse me, yes, it's a fixture we expect to win, and obviously Burnley this season haven't started the brightest, but it really is the least helpful thing you could have going into a game, apart from maybe, your starting 11 getting injured. But apart from that, it's probably one of the least favourable things to have, is not only having to worry about your players stinking it up on the pitch, but your players creating a negative atmosphere in the dressing room and just putting a cloud over the whole club at the moment. You put that with the fans' unrest and the fans' frustration, and everything it could just come to a head. And I really hope that's not the case with Ten Hag, but I do worry about him. I really do worry about him. So yeah, listen, it's something that hopefully we can put right with this Burnley performance. If we do put together a good performance against Burnley and a win, then hopefully the results will start to pick up and all this negativity will go away. But it's frustrating. It really is frustrating. And again, dressing room leaks, we've had this before under previous managers. It's not helpful. I mean, I know with social media and with word of mouth, X, Y, Z, it's very difficult to stop. I understand that, but it's not helpful. And if there are players leaking, just have your look in the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror. Really? An adult leaking things to the press? It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. It's like schoolboy stuff. It really is. But it doesn't help the club whatsoever. But that's my 2 cents on it. Terence says 3-1 United. A couple of positive predictions coming in. I'm liking it. I'll be honest. I wasn't expecting people to be this positive. Obviously, we've lost our last 4 games in all competition. With Arsenal, Brighton, Bayern Munich. No, sorry. Sorry, my fault. We've actually lost 3 in a row. We haven't lost... We've lost 4 out of our first 6. That's what I meant. So we've lost 3 in a row. Could be 4 in a row. So I wasn't expecting people to be this positive about the scoreline, but I hope you're right. He also says, indeed, terrible with so many injured players. Yeah, the injuries, of course, and we'll go through my predicted starting 11 in a second, but the injuries haven't helped Ten Hag, and obviously I don't think that can be used as a kind of a crutch for Ten Hag to lean on in terms of excuses, but it's definitely something to consider. He also says players that are important to the first 11. Exactly. Yeah, it's been frustrating. And obviously when you get injuries to the likes of Luke Shaw and Varane, and these players are massive to our back line, and they were staunch figures in last season's decent season, I would say. Obviously winning a trophy, coming third, and we actually had a really good defensive record last season as well. So yeah, it's frustrating. It really is frustrating that both those players got injuries. But I think Varane might be available for this game. We'll have to wait and see who travels tomorrow. Ten Hag in his press conference today was still kind of very coy about certain players. When he was asked about them, he kind of said, some players have had short timeouts, some players have had longer timeouts, so we'll have to wait and see. So no real concrete news on that as it stands, but we'll see when the squad comes out, ultimately, who's travelled and who hasn't. But I'm going to give you my predicted lineup for the game. Now, I was going to get a graphic up, but I don't actually have the ability to get graphics up on this version of StreamYard, so you're just going to have to listen to what I say, and maybe someone can type it up in the chat. But I'm going to go with Onana in goal. I'm going to say Dalot at right back. I am going to put Varane and Martinez in that centre-back role. I think Lindelof hasn't had the best of times, and Martinez hasn't either recently, but I do feel like with Varane coming back in, we do need to start getting back to as close to our best defence as we possibly can. So Varane and Martinez next to each other. Reguilon, who actually, shout out to Reguilon, considering he was a player that a lot of people didn't want, he's actually not done too badly for us. He's actually performed pretty well. So I'm going to put Reguilon on left back. I am going to put Sofiane Amrabat as the starting midfielder next to Casemiro in that pivot. And I'm almost doing that more out of hope than knowledge, because I don't think there was any concrete evidence that Amrabat was going to be starting this game from Ten Hag. He kept his cards very close to his chest. So, in the end of the day, I'm just going off hope. And listen, Amrabat for me is going to be a big part of whether we're successful or whether we're not this season. And I know it's almost unfair to put that on his shoulders this early into his Man United career. Hasn't even stepped foot on the pitch, for God's sake. But, really, the way Casemiro is looking, the way every team right now is just cutting through our midfield like it's not even there. We need someone like Amrabat in this team. And if he can hit the ground running, maybe he could have a similar impact to Casemiro last season, because Casemiro came in when we were struggling and all of a sudden we went on a really good run of form. So hopefully he can have that same sort of impact. I'm then going to say Rashford on the left-hand side. He really needs to fix up, I'm telling you, in terms of work rate and in terms of output as well. And hopefully Burnley is a team that he can do it against. He's had pretty good success against Burnley, actually, down the years. So hopefully we see more of that from Rashford. Fernandes in the 10, and I'm going to put Pellistri on that right-hand side. I think Mount isn't going to be fit enough to start in this one. And also, it wouldn't make any sense to me for Ten Hag to start Pellistri away in Munich and then drop him. It really would not make any sense to me. I know Ten Hag has been making some questionable decisions lately in terms of team selection, but it would not make any sense to me if he dropped Pellistri for this game. So I'm going to put Pellistri on the right wing, and then Rasmus Højlund, his first goal for Manchester United on Wednesday night. Really happy for him. Hopefully that was the first of many for him. Looking forward to seeing how he plays against Burnley. So that's my predicted 11. Let me know your thoughts in the live chat and of course the comment section down below. Let's see what you guys are saying. Box's predicted 11 is Onana, Dalot, Varane, Martinez, Reguilon, Casemiro, Hannibal, Mount, Garnacho, Højlund and Pellistri. So he would drop Rashford and Fernandes. That is an interesting call. I've got to say, obviously, there'd have to be another captain on the pitch. But Hannibal, to be fair, I think does deserve an opportunity as well. Scored a brilliant goal against Brighton, and he was getting stick off people for celebrating his goal. And, I mean, some people, listen, you're allowed to have your opinion, of course, and my opinion doesn't mean more than anyone else's, but get a grip. Get a grip, please. Garnacho getting an opportunity as well. I mean, we haven't seen much from Garnacho when he started games. He's much better off the bench. So we'll see what Ten Hag does with that. But a few interesting shouts there from Box. Terence says Reguilon IMO has played pretty decent. Yeah, I agree. As I said, he was someone who a lot of people had reservations about when he first joined United. I think it was definitely a panic signing. Let's be honest, with Luke Shaw getting injured, a bit of a needs-must signing. But actually, in the couple games he's played, he's looked pretty decent. Defensively, I'm seeing some of the reason why Spurs weren't that asked about keeping hold of him this season. But going forward, he really does add something. I think, is he better than Shaw? I don't know. Time will tell. But, right now he's definitely giving us something going forward. And hopefully against Burnley, where we should have more possession and we should create more chances, he can provide the quality down that left-hand side. Fingers crossed. And Box says, Bruno and Rashford play a lot, need freshening up. Maybe that's it. Listen, there's no doubt in my mind that Marcus Rashford is suffering from some sort of fatigue, whether it's mentally or physically. He obviously carried the load massively last season, scoring 30 goals in all comps. So, he was someone who was massive for us, and he just looks the shadow of the player so far. And his work rate, I have to be honest, hasn't been good enough so far. And it's something which, probably a lot of people have been pointing out to him, or at least I hope that people have been pointing out to him. But it's something that really doesn't get you on side with the fans. There's one thing going through a bad run of form, but there's another thing looking like you're not trying. And I'm not going to accuse Rashford of not trying, but it certainly doesn't look good. From some of the clips we've seen, it certainly doesn't look good. So I hope he can turn it around, I really do. And hopefully this game against Burnley at Turf Moor is the place to do it. But I'm going to give you my score prediction, and you guys can leave your score predictions in the comment section down below. And of course, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below as well. Now, I predicted a 2-1 Bayern defeat in the week, and, well, we scored 3 goals, which, if you told me before the game we scored 3 goals away in Munich, I'd be getting the party hats on. I would have thought we'd somehow managed to get a point, or even get the 3 points, which would have been unthinkable the way we were playing. So, with that in mind, I do think Burnley are there for the taking if we want to turn up. But I don't see us having some kind of major improvement. I really don't. Obviously, maybe we have a couple of the injured players coming back into the team and that might help us. But right now, with all the unrest happening, I'm a little bit fearful. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit fearful. But I'm not going to predict a defeat. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say a 3-1 win to United. Now, that might sound like we're going to run away with it. It's going to be pretty easy. But I actually think that we'll put in a fairly decent performance. There'll be somewhat of a reaction from the Bayern game. But I don't think that 3-1 will be the full story of the game. I think we will have periods where it'll be difficult, where the crowd's going to be up. But I'm hopeful that we can see those out and we can put some past Burnley, because defensively this season they have been poor. Not won a game all season at home. Obviously they've only played 3 games, so it's a bit harsh, but they haven't won at home so far. They've conceded, I think, 11 goals at home in 3 games. So if we want to get at them, they're there for the taking. And we scored 3 goals in Munich, so who knows? But all I can think of really is, if we lose this game, the pressure that Erik ten Hag will be under will be palpable, is a word I'd use. Palpable pressure. So I'm hoping for him that he can get us back on track. Terence says Rashford must not be selfish for the next match, since the game against Brighton he played selfish. Well, this was one thing that was actually a point, wasn't it, when Højlund came in, was with Rashford being the main man last season, the guy that carried the attack, is he going to want to turn provider? Is he going to be able to become a more traditional winger, putting in crosses and setting up the striker? Because obviously for the past maybe 2 seasons since we had Edinson Cavani in the team, he hasn't really had a out-and-out number 9 to feed. We've had Martial, who's kind of, is he a number 9, is he a winger? Then Rashford's played through the middle sometimes. He hasn't really had, and Weghorst of course came in, and maybe he was the number 9, but I don't know, he hasn't really had much quality up front, which he really trusts. And if Højlund can prove himself more, then there's definitely room for improvement in terms of Rashford's distribution. I say distribution, his quality, his final third ball has to be a lot better than it has been. But you're right, I think there have been times so far this season where he has shown a little bit of selfishness. But then again, last season he was the main man, he was the main goal scorer. So maybe that's still part of him, that he feels like he has to be the main man. Whereas actually with Højlund up front, the idea is that he can share the load with him. And to have an out-and-out number 9 it means that he's not having to carry the load himself. So hopefully that does impact his performance better. And Terence says, plenty of fact checks for the players since the recent performances for them is awful. Yeah, listen, I hope that they've been having some home truths spoken to them in that dressing room, because if they haven't, we're in for another bumpy ride tomorrow night. Box says, breaking news, easy win, Kieran says. Yeah, I tell you what, you may as well go work for the Daily Mail. You may as well be one of those journalists today. I mean, did anyone see the story that came out about Onana dropping his keys? Bloody hell. Bloody hell. I mean, there's not a lot you can say about that, really. There's not a lot you can say about that. But, yeah, Onana, he showed great character, at least to kind of want an interview, request an interview. Obviously, the mistake is poor. And, listen, we have to be behind him. We have to be behind him. It's still early days for him, but I do like his attitude. Hopefully, his performances on the pitch improve. Final comment I'm going to read out before we wrap it up. Terence says, Ten Hag is a great manager. It's just that how he handles and instructs the players off the pitch, and the side fact that there is some favouritism in the dressing room. I can't really disagree with that, Terence. 100% when Anthony was available, and if Anthony wasn't going through all these off-the-field things, then he would be starting every game. Make no mistake about it. So there is 100% favouritism with Ten Hag. It's very difficult to ignore that. And obviously that seems to be, at least allegedly, where all this fuss comes with Sancho and Ten Hag going at it, and all the problems there. So that is something that he's going to have to rectify and hopefully repair that relationship with the players. And Box says, thoughts on Luckhurst. Yeah, I mean, listen, Luckhurst, he's someone who is, 100% a respected journalist. And who knows? I mean, look, it isn't. In my opinion, we don't know the story. We don't know, whether, these are real dressing room sources, whether it's coming from the players themselves, whether it's coming from their friends and family. We don't know. We don't know. So we can't really comment. Obviously, the story's come out and it's nothing new. Listen, it's nothing new that has been leaked in the Man United dressing room. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe the players will come out and defend themselves. Who knows? But yeah, that's all I've got to say on that, really. But thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it if you watched it live. Box and Terence, thanks for joining. Thanks for commenting. If you're watching it on the replay, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. And feel free to like and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy today's video. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Cheers.